The notification lit up my phone at 2:35 a.m. on a Tuesday. I wouldn't have seen it if insomnia hadn't already had me by the throat, scrolling mindlessly through my email while Jessica slept soundly beside me. The sender was anonymous, just a string of numbers, but the subject line made my blood run cold. Thought you should know what your wife does on Thursdays. I should have deleted it. Any rational person would have. Instead, I opened it. The attached photo showed Jessica, my wife of 9 years, mother of our 2 daughters, in a hotel lobby I recognized immediately. The Grandview downtown. She was laughing, her hand on some guy's chest, looking up at him the way she used to look at me back when we were dating. The timestamp read Thursday, 11:23 p.m., last Thursday, the night she'd told me she was working late on the Henderson account. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I zoomed in on the image, searching desperately for some innocent explanation. Maybe it was a work colleague. Maybe it was just a friendly conversation. But the way his hand rested on her lower back, the way she leaned into him, there was nothing professional about it. I glanced at Jessica sleeping peacefully next to me, her blonde hair fanned across the pillow, her face serene. We'd made love just hours ago. She'd whispered that she loved me, had kissed me goodnight like she always did. Who was this man? I forwarded the photo to myself and deleted the original email, then slipped out of bed and went downstairs to my office. My heart hammered against my ribs as I opened my laptop and pulled up our phone records. We'd been on the same family plan for years. I'd never had a reason to check her call history before. There it was. A number I didn't recognize, called repeatedly over the past 6 weeks. Sometimes the calls lasted just minutes. Other times they stretched over an hour. Always during the day when I was at work. Always when she claimed to be running errands or meeting clients. I cross-referenced the dates with my calendar. Every single Thursday for the past month and a half, she'd told me she was working late. Every single Thursday there were multiple calls to this number. The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of my desk, forcing myself to breathe. We had a good marriage, or at least I thought we did. Sure, things had gotten a bit routine after 9 years. 2 kids will do that. But we still went on date nights. We still talked. We still laughed together. Just last weekend, we'd taken the girls to the zoo, and Jessica had held my hand the entire time, telling me how lucky she was to have me. Had it all been a lie? I needed more information. I needed to know who this guy was, how long this had been going on, and most importantly, why. I created a fake Facebook profile using a stock photo and started searching. The Grandview Hotel's location tag gave me a starting point. I scrolled through check-ins from last Thursday, looking for anyone who might match the man in the photo. Tall, dark hair, expensive suit. It took me 40 minutes, but I found him. Tyler Blackwood, 34 years old, investment banker at Merrill Lynch. Married. His profile showed a pretty brunette wife and 2 young sons. His page was mostly private, but his profile picture showed him at some charity gala, looking exactly like the man whose chest my wife had been touching. I felt sick. The sun was starting to rise when I finally closed my laptop. I'd spent 3 hours going down a rabbit hole of social media stalking and phone record analysis. Jessica had called Tyler's number 17 times in the past week alone. Some calls were brief, probably texts that showed up as calls on the billing statement, but others lasted over an hour. How had I not noticed? I replayed the past 6 weeks in my mind. Had she seemed distant? Different? But nothing stood out. She'd been the same Jessica she'd always been. Attentive mother? Loving wife? Or so I'd thought. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly minimized my browser windows. Jessica appeared in the doorway, wearing one of my old college t-shirts, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Babe, what are you doing down here?" Her voice was soft, concerned. "It's 6 in the morning." I looked at her, really looked at her, searching for some sign of guilt, some crack in the facade. But she just looked tired and confused, genuinely worried about why I was up so early. Couldn't sleep, I said, surprised at how normal my voice sounded. Thought I'd get a head start on some work emails. She walked over and kissed the top of my head, her hand resting on my shoulder. You work too hard, Daniel. Come back to bed for a little while. The girls won't be up for another hour. The casual intimacy of the gesture, something we'd done 1,000 times before, now felt like a betrayal. I wanted to confront her right there, to demand answers, to ask her who Tyler Blackwood was and why she'd been lying to me for weeks. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the lawyer in me. I'd spent 12 years as a corporate attorney, and I knew better than to show my hand before I had all the facts. Or maybe it was just cowardice, the desperate hope that if I didn't say it out loud, it might somehow not be real. I'll be up in a minute, I told her. She smiled and headed back upstairs. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close, then pulled out my phone and opened the photo again. Thursday was 2 days away. The offshore breeze hit me as I stepped out of the rental car, carrying the scent of salt and sunscreen. Key West had seemed like the perfect escape. A week of diving to celebrate our 15th anniversary. Jessica had been so excited when I'd booked it 3 months ago, back when I still believed in us. Now, walking toward Captain Rick's dive shop on Duval Street, I wondered if she'd been planning to meet him here too. The shop was a weathered building with faded paint and a hand-painted sign showing a cartoonish octopus. Inside, the air conditioning fought a losing battle against the Florida heat. Wetsuits hung on racks, and the walls were covered with photos of divers posing with groupers and sea turtles. Help you folks? A man in his 60s looked up from behind the counter, skin tanned to leather, eyes permanently squinted from decades of sun. We need gear for the week, I said. 2 sets. Advanced open water certification. Rick Patterson. He extended a calloused hand. Let me get you set up. Jessica wandered toward the wetsuit racks while Rick pulled out rental agreements. I noticed the logbook stacked beside the register. Thick binders with handwritten entries tracking every tank fill, every dive, every certification. You folks been diving long? Rick asked, sliding forms across the counter. About 5 years, I said. Mostly Caribbean. Cozumel, Bonaire. Good diving down there. He pulled out 2 BCDs checking the inflators. You'll love the reefs here. We've got some beautiful sights. Vandenberg Wreck is a must-see. Jessica returned with a wetsuit. Do you have this in a medium? While Rick helped her, I leaned against the counter, my eyes drifting to the logbooks. They were organized by date, each page filled with neat columns. Diver name, certification number, tank number, pressure before fill, pressure after fill, time, date. You keep detailed records, I said when Rick returned. Coast Guard requires it. He pulled out regulators, testing each one. Every tank fill gets logged. Liability, you know. Plus it helps me track maintenance. I nodded, watching him work. We're doing the afternoon reef dive tomorrow. The one with the instructor? That'll be with Kyle. Rick's expression didn't change, but something in his tone shifted slightly. Good diver. Knows these reefs better than anyone. Kyle. I let the name hang there. Kyle Brennan. Been working here about 8 months now. Rick attached a pressure gauge to a tank, checking the reading. Came down from Miami. Really knows his stuff. Jessica rejoined us, oblivious to the tension I felt building in my chest. 8 months. The phone records I'd pulled before we left showed calls to an unfamiliar Florida number starting 7 months ago. Calls that happened every time Jessica claimed to be at her yoga retreat weekends. Actually, Rick said, pulling out one of the logbooks, let me just verify Kyle's scheduled for tomorrow. He flipped through pages, and I caught glimpses of the entries, names, dates, tank numbers, and then I saw it. Jessica Reeves. My wife's maiden name, the one she still used for her business accounts. listed 4 times over the past 6 months. Each entry showed 2 tanks filled simultaneously, tandem fills, the kind you do for buddy diving. And next to each of her entries, the same pattern. Kyle Brennan, same date, same time, tanks filled together. My hands gripped the counter edge. "You okay, buddy?" Rick was watching me. "Fine." I forced my voice steady. "Just hot." But Rick's eyes had followed my gaze to the logbook. He looked at the entries, then at Jessica browsing masks across the shop, then back at me. Understanding dawned slowly across his weathered face. "The Brennan entries," I said quietly, while Jessica was out of earshot. "Those tandem fills. That's for deep dives, right? Instructor and student?" Rick's jaw tightened. "Sometimes." "What sites?" He hesitated, then flipped back through the pages. "Looks like the advanced sites. The Cayman Salvager wreck. The deep wall off Sand Key. Those are 100-foot dives. Technical diving." Jessica had her open water certification, maybe advanced. But technical diving? That required extensive training, multiple sessions with an instructor, private sessions. "She told me she was doing yoga retreats," I said, the words bitter in my mouth. Rick closed the logbook slowly. "I'm sorry, man." Jessica appeared at my elbow, smiling, holding up a pink mask. "What do you think?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married 15 years ago. The mother of my daughters. Standing there in her sundress, tan lines visible on her shoulders, asking about a mask while the evidence of her betrayal sat in a logbook 3 feet away. "It's perfect," I said. That night, in our rental cottage on Sunset Key, I waited until Jessica was in the shower. Then I pulled out my phone and called the dive shop. "Captain Rick's." "Rick, it's Daniel, from this afternoon." A pause. "Yeah. I need to know about Kyle Brennan." Another pause, longer this time. Water ran in the bathroom. Jessica was singing something, off-key and happy. "Look, man, I don't want to get in the middle of..." "Please." Rick sighed. "He's a good instructor. PADI certified, rescue diver, the works. But..." He trailed off. "But what?" "He's got a reputation with the lady clients. I've had to talk to him about it twice, keeping things professional." My grip on the phone tightened. "Has there been anyone else?" "I can't..." "Rick, please." The silence stretched. Then, "One other, tourist from Atlanta. Her husband found out, came down here raising hell. That was 4 months ago. I warned Kyle then, told him one more incident and he was done. But you kept him on. He brings in business. Those private deep dives, they're expensive. And he's careful now. Or I thought he was." Rick's voice hardened. "I didn't know about your wife. The entries were under her maiden name, different address. I never connected it." The shower shut off. I had maybe 2 minutes. "The dive tomorrow," I said. "Is Kyle leading it?" "Yeah, afternoon reef tour. Why?" "I'm going to confront her, tonight. But I need you to do something for me." "I don't know if..." "Cancel Kyle's certification." "What?" "You said one more incident. This is it. I'll give you everything you need. Photos, phone records, proof. But I need you to ground him. No more dives, no more access to your clients." Rick was quiet. I could hear him breathing, thinking. "And the dive tomorrow?" he finally asked. "We'll still go, but not with Kyle. Anyone else. I've got Beth. She's good. Former Navy diver. Perfect." The bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out, and Jessica emerged in a towel, her hair wrapped up. "I've got to go," I said. "Daniel?" Rick's voice stopped me. "Good luck, man. And I'm sorry. I should have caught this." "Not your fault." I hung up as Jessica smiled at me. "Who was that?" "Work. Nothing important." She crossed to her suitcase, pulled out pajamas. "I'm exhausted. That flight really took it out of me." I watched her dress, this stranger wearing my wife's face. The evidence was overwhelming now. The phone records, the logbook entries, Rick's confirmation, but I needed to hear it from her. Jessica. Something in my tone made her turn. We need to talk. Her smile faltered. About what? I pulled out my phone, opened the photo I'd taken of Rick's logbook when he wasn't looking. 4 entries. Her name next to Kyle's, tandem tank fills, deep dive certifications she'd never mentioned. About your yoga retreats. The color drained from her face. Daniel, don't. I held up my hand. I know about Kyle. I know about the dives, the private sessions, the technical certification you've been getting while telling me you were doing downward dog in Tampa. She sat down on the bed, the towel clutched in her hands. How did you? The dive shop keeps logs. Every tank fill. Every dive. You used your maiden name, but you forgot they'd record everything. I moved closer and she flinched. 4 trips, 7 months. How many dives with him, Jessica? How many times did you go down together? It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. The words died on her lips as she stared at the photographs spread across the coffee table. 7 months of dive logs, tank pressure readings, depth charts, times and dates that corresponded exactly with her yoga retreats. Daniel, don't. My voice came out flat, dead. I've already called the dive certification board. Kyle's credentials are under review. Captain Rick is cooperating fully with their investigation. Her face went pale. You talked to Rick? He was very helpful. Showed me everything. The tandem dive records, the equipment log showing 2 people sharing air supplies on dives that were supposed to be solo instruction sessions. I picked up one of the printouts. Funny thing about scuba tanks, they keep perfect records. Pressure before the dive, pressure after. When 2 people are breathing from the same tank system, the consumption rate tells a story. Jessica sank onto the couch, her hands trembling. It wasn't... We didn't... The logs show you went to 80 feet. 90. 110 on that last dive in March. I kept my tone clinical, detached. Those aren't beginner depths. Those are dives that require advanced certification and a lot of trust in your dive partner. The kind of trust that takes time to build. She looked up at me, mascara already starting to run. How did you find out? Does it matter? I gathered the papers, sliding them back into the folder. I'm flying home tomorrow. You can stay here for the rest of the week if you want. I've already moved my things to a different hotel. Daniel, please. The girls are with your mother. I told her we needed to extend our anniversary trip. She was thrilled. I stood, tucking the folder under my arm. My attorney will contact you next week. Your attorney? Her voice cracked. You can't just... We need to talk about this. We really don't. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Jessica, you might want to call Kyle. Let him know his insurance rates are about to go up significantly. The flight home gave me 12 hours to think, to plan, to let the cold rage settle into something more useful. Kyle Brennan had a pattern. Rick had confirmed it. 3 other clients over the past 5 years, all married women, all taking private instruction that went well beyond proper diving protocols. The certification board would handle him professionally, but that wasn't enough. I wanted him to feel what I felt. The sudden drop, the pressure. The moment when everything you thought was solid turned out to be an illusion. Back in my office the following Monday, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to an old law school friend who now worked in marine insurance. I need information on dive shop liability policies. Specifically, what happens when an instructor's certification gets pulled? That's oddly specific, Brian said. Everything okay? Research for a client. The lie came easily. What can you tell me? Well, if an instructor loses their cert, any shop employing them becomes massively liable. We're talking potential lawsuits from every client they ever taught. The shop's insurance premiums skyrocket, assuming the insurer doesn't just drop them entirely. He paused. Why? Just curious about the cascading effects. I made notes. What about the instructor's personal liability? They'd be uninsurable. Couldn't work in the industry again without going through complete recertification, which takes years. And that's assuming the board doesn't ban them permanently. Perfect. The second call was to Captain Rick. Daniel, hey, I've been meaning to reach out. I need a favor, I cut in, and I'm willing to pay for your time. What kind of favor? Kyle's certification review is going to take weeks, maybe months. During that time, he's still technically certified, right? Technically, yeah. Until the board makes a final determination. I need you to document every safety violation he's ever committed, every corner he's cut, every protocol he's ignored. I leaned back in my chair. And I need you to report a few more incidents. Silence on the other end. Rick, this guy has been using your shop to prey on married clients for years. You said it yourself. Jessica wasn't the first. How many marriages has he destroyed? How many families? What kind of incidents are we talking about? The kind that would make the Coast Guard take notice. Equipment failures. Dangerous dive conditions he ignored. Near misses that could have gotten people killed. I kept my voice steady. Nothing that didn't happen. Just things that maybe weren't reported at the time. Another long pause. I'd need to verify everything with my other instructors. Make sure the timeline matches up. Of course, I'm not asking you to lie, just to be thorough in your documentation. And you'll cover my legal fees if this blows back? I'll do better than that. I'll make sure your shop comes out of this looking like the responsible party that caught a bad actor before someone got hurt. Give me a week, Rick said. The third call was the most delicate. Tropical Dive Adventures. This is Amanda speaking. Hi, Amanda. I'm calling about booking a dive trip. I heard great things about your Key West tours from a friend. Wonderful. When were you looking to dive? Actually, I wanted to ask about one of your instructors specifically. Kyle Brennan? My friend said he was excellent. Oh. Her voice changed, became careful. Kyle's schedule is pretty full right now. We have several other excellent instructors who… That's fine. I'm flexible on dates. What's his next available opening? I heard typing. Looks like he has a group dive scheduled for this Saturday. Advanced certification, 4 clients. But honestly, sir, I'd recommend… Perfect. Can you send me the details? I'd like to book for my wife and myself. Let me just check with my manager. I'll pay double the standard rate. We really want Kyle specifically. More typing. Okay, I can get you on the roster. Names? I gave her fake names, a burner email address, and a prepaid credit card number that would clear initially but decline when they actually tried to charge it. Saturday's dive would never happen, but Kyle didn't need to know that yet. The certification board moved faster than I expected. Mr. Reeves? The woman's voice was professional, clipped. This is Patricia Donovan from the Professional Diving Instructors Association. I'm calling regarding your complaint about Kyle Brennan. Thank you for following up. We've completed our preliminary investigation. Based on the evidence you provided, along with additional documentation from Captain Rick's dive shop, we're moving forward with an emergency suspension of Mr. Brennan's teaching credentials. I sat up straighter. Emergency suspension? The safety violations are extensive. Tank overfills, improper buddy breathing protocols, diving beyond certified depths with uncertified divers. We also found evidence of falsified logbooks and equipment inspections. She paused. Mr. Reeves, I have to ask, how did you compile such detailed records? I'm an attorney. Documentation is what I do. Well, your documentation may have prevented a serious accident. We're also referring this matter to the Coast Guard for potential criminal charges. Criminal charges? Reckless endangerment, fraud, possibly more, depending on what their investigation turns up. Papers rustled. The emergency suspension is effective immediately. Mr. Brennan is prohibited from teaching, supervising, or conducting any diving activities until the full board review is complete. How long will that take? 6 to 8 months, minimum. Given the severity of the violations, I'd say permanent revocation is likely. After I hung up, I allowed myself a small smile. Kyle's career was finished, his reputation destroyed. Every client he'd ever taught would be notified of the safety violations, would question whether their certifications were even valid. He'd spend years rebuilding, if he could rebuild at all. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Insurance company dropped Rick's shop. Found them a new carrier, but premiums are 3x higher. Rick's pissed. Good. Rick had enabled Kyle, looked the other way. He deserved some consequences too. Another text, this one from an unknown number. We need to talk. Jay. I deleted it without responding. Jessica had tried calling 17 times in the past week. I'd blocked her number after the 5th call, but she'd started using other phones. Her mother's, her sister's. Even Tyler Blackwood's wife had called once. That had been an interesting voicemail to receive. My attorney had filed the divorce papers yesterday. Jessica would be served tomorrow. The house was quiet without the girls, but they'd be home this weekend. I'd already planned what to tell them. Age-appropriate truth. Mommy and Daddy needed some time apart. We both loved them very much. Nothing was their fault. The lies parents tell. The confirmation email from the Florida Keys Diving Association arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Friday. I was still at my desk in the condo, the furnished 2-bedroom I'd rented 3 blocks from our house, when my phone lit up. Formal complaint. Yux 2024-0847. Resolution. Kyle Brennan's instructor certification had been permanently revoked. Not suspended. Revoked. The email detailed a pattern of safety violations spanning 3 years, multiple unreported incidents with female clients, and falsified logbook entries. My complaint had triggered a full audit. They'd found everything. The association thanked me for my diligence in reporting these serious violations. They noted that my detailed documentation had potentially prevented future accidents or fatalities. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. Because I still didn't know the truth about Tyler Blackwood. The diving revelations had consumed me for 2 weeks. I'd focused all my energy on destroying Kyle, on punishing the dive shop, on methodically dismantling the infrastructure that had enabled Jessica's deception. But the original question remained unanswered. Who was the man in the hotel photo? I'd assumed Tyler was a red herring, that the anonymous tipster had been wrong or deliberately misleading me. But what if I'd been too quick to dismiss it? What if Jessica had been involved with both men? The thought made my stomach turn. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I'd labeled Background. Inside were screenshots of Tyler Blackwood's social media profiles, the original hotel photo, the phone records showing 17 calls between Jessica's number and 1 registered to Tyler's company. 17 calls over 6 weeks. I'd never explained those away. I zoomed in on the hotel photo again. The timestamp showed it was taken on a Thursday afternoon, September 14th, specifically. I cross-referenced it against my calendar. I'd been in depositions all day. Jessica had texted me around 2 p.m. saying she was meeting her book club for an early dinner. Book club. Right. I pulled up our credit card statements from September. No charges at the Grandview Hotel, but that proved nothing. Tyler could have paid. I searched for any charges around that date and time. There, a parking garage downtown, 2 blocks from the Grandview, paid at 1:47 p.m., exit recorded at 5:23 p.m., 3.5 hours. My hands were shaking. I'd been so focused on Kyle that I'd let this slide. But the evidence was still there, still unexplained. I needed to know who sent that original email. The message had come from a burner account, throwaway, anonymous. 70protonmail.com. No identifying information. But someone had taken that photo. Someone had known where Jessica would be that day, had followed her, had documented her meeting with Tyler, and someone had wanted me to know about it. I opened a new browser window and logged into the email account I'd created specifically for the divorce proceedings. My attorney, Robert Walsh, had advised me to keep all communication documented and separate from my personal accounts. I composed a new message to the anonymous sender, replying to their original email for the first time. I received your message. I need more information. Who are you, and how did you get this photo? I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came 43 minutes later. I'd been staring at my inbox, refreshing compulsively, when the notification appeared. You don't know me, but I know Tyler. He's done this before, 3 times that I know of. Always married women, always the same pattern. Lunch meetings that turn into hotel visits. His wife doesn't know. Or maybe she does and doesn't care. I work at Merrill Lynch, different department. I've seen him operate. Your wife isn't special to him. She's just convenient. I sent you the photo because someone sent one to me 2 years ago when my sister was involved with him. I didn't believe it then. I should have. She lost her marriage over him, and he moved on within a month. I'm sorry, but you deserve to know. I read the message 3 times. Then I typed back, "Is it still happening? Are they still in contact?" The reply was almost immediate. I don't know. I stopped tracking him after I sent you the photo. That was 6 weeks ago. But I can tell you this. He never stops for long. If he hasn't contacted her recently, he will. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. 6 weeks since the photo. That aligned with when I'd first received the email, right before our anniversary trip to Key West. The trip where I'd discovered the diving lessons. Had Jessica been juggling both men? Or had she ended things with Tyler and moved on to Kyle? Or, and this thought made my blood run cold, had there never been anything physical with Kyle at all? Had I destroyed an innocent man's career based on circumstantial evidence and my own paranoid assumptions? No. The dive logs were real. The private lessons were real. The pattern of behavior Captain Rick had alluded to was real. But that didn't prove an affair. I needed to talk to Tyler Blackwood. Monday morning, I called Merrill Lynch's main office and asked for Tyler's extension. The receptionist transferred me without question. Tyler Blackwood. His voice was smooth, confident. Exactly what I'd expected from an investment banker. Mr. Blackwood, my name is Daniel Reeves. I'm an attorney, and I need to speak with you about a sensitive matter. Can we meet today? There was a pause. What kind of matter? It concerns my wife, Jessica Reeves. I believe you know her. The silence stretched for 5 seconds. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. The Grandview Hotel, September 14th, Thursday afternoon. Does that refresh your memory? I heard him exhale. Who is this, really? I told you, I'm Jessica's husband, and I have a photo of the 2 of you together. I'm not interested in making trouble for you, Mr. Blackwood. I just want the truth. Meet me for coffee, 30 minutes, and this conversation stays between us. Refuse, and I'll be having a very different conversation with your wife and your employer. Another pause. There's a Starbucks on 5th and Madison, 1 p.m. I'll be there. He hung up without saying goodbye. Tyler Blackwood looked exactly like his LinkedIn photo. Tall, dark hair graying at the temples, expensive suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He was already seated when I arrived, a black coffee in front of him, his wedding ring prominently displayed on his left hand. I sat down across from him without ordering anything. You have 5 minutes, he said. Then I'm leaving. I pulled out my phone and showed him the hotel photo. Explain this. He glanced at it, his expression carefully neutral. That's not what you think it is. Then what is it? A business meeting. Jessica was consulting on a project for one of my clients. We met at the hotel because their conference rooms are nicer than our office. For 3.5 hours? His jaw tightened. It was a complex presentation. We ordered room service while we worked. Nothing happened. Room service, I kept my voice level. In a hotel room, with a married woman, for 3.5 hours. We were in a conference room, not a bedroom. Check with the hotel if you don't believe me. The Grandview has business facilities on the 3rd floor. We reserved the sunset room from 2 to 5:30 p.m. I hadn't known that. And the 17 phone calls between your numbers? Coordinating schedules, discussing the project, following up on deliverables, all work-related, all documented in my company's phone logs if you want to subpoena them. He was too calm, too prepared. Either he was telling the truth or he was an exceptional liar. Why didn't Jessica tell me about this project? I don't know. Maybe she did and you forgot. Maybe it wasn't important enough to mention. Maybe she keeps her work life separate from her personal life. I can't answer for your wife's communication habits. I studied his face, looking for tells. You've done this before. I know about the other women. For the first time, his composure cracked. What other women? The married clients. The pattern. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. He stood up abruptly. I don't know who's been feeding you information, but this conversation is over. I've never had an affair with your wife or anyone else. If you continue to harass me or spread defamatory claims, I'll have my attorney contact you. Are we clear? He walked out before I could respond. I sat there for another 10 minutes, my coffee untouched, trying to process what had just happened. Either Tyler Blackwood was innocent, or he was very, very good at covering his tracks. And I still didn't know which. The dive shop's air compressor kicked on with a mechanical wheeze as I stepped through the door. The smell of salt and neoprene thick in the humid Key West air. 3 months had passed since I'd walked out on Jessica. 3 months of lawyers and depositions and the slow, grinding machinery of divorce. I'd come back to the island alone, drawn by something I couldn't quite name. Closure, maybe. Or confirmation. Captain Rick looked up from behind the counter, recognition flickering across his weathered face before settling into something more guarded. Didn't expect to see you again, he said, setting down a regulator he'd been servicing. Just need a tank for tomorrow. Single dive, nothing fancy. He nodded slowly, then pulled out the rental form. As he filled in the details, his pen paused. You know Kyle's gone, right? Lost his certification. Heard it was pretty thorough. Patty, NLY, everything. I heard. Shops changed hands, too. New owners cleaned house. Found some interesting stuff in the old records. He reached under the counter and pulled out a worn logbook, the kind with handwritten entries and pressure readings. Tank logs. We're supposed to keep them for liability, track every fill, every dive. My throat tightened. Rick flipped it open to a page marked with a yellow tab. This is from last November. See these entries? His finger traced down a column of dates and times. Tandem fills. 2 tanks, filled simultaneously, same pressure, same mixture. Kyle's and... He looked up at me. Jessica Reeves. Maiden name Whitmore, right? The numbers swam before my eyes. November 14th, 15th, 22nd, December 3rd, 10th, 17th. January dates. February. The pattern was unmistakable. Weekend fills, always 2 tanks, always the same specifications. Tandem fills mean they dove together, Rick continued. Every single time. Not group dives with other clients, just the 2 of them. Deep dives, too. These mixtures, these pressures, they're for serious depth. 70, 80 feet minimum. My hands had gone numb. How many times? 17 logged here. Could be more at other shops, but... He shrugged. 17 times your wife went down deep with my former instructor. Alone. I stared at the entries, at Jessica's signature next to Kyle's on each line. The handwriting I'd seen on birthday cards and grocery lists, now paired with his in neat columns of deception. "Why are you showing me this?" Rick's jaw tightened. "Because Kyle wasn't just a bad instructor. After you left, after everything went down, I started hearing from other clients. Women, mostly. Married women. He had a pattern. Called them private deep dive experiences. Charged premium rates. And every single one," he tapped the logbook. "Tandem fills, tandem dives, same pattern." The room felt too small, the air too thick. "Did any of them?" "2 divorces I know of. 1 marriage that somehow survived. The others?" He closed the logbook. "Look, I don't know what happened down there. I don't know what your wife did or didn't do. But those tanks don't lie. She went down with him, repeatedly, and she never told you. That's enough, isn't it?" I sat in the rental cottage that night with the dive shop receipt in front of me, Rick's words echoing in my skull. The tanks don't lie. My laptop was open to Jessica's social media, months of scrolling backward through smiling photos and cheerful updates. There, a post from November 16th, 2 days after that first tandem fill. "Amazing yoga retreat this weekend, feeling so refreshed and centered. Self-care or she wellness." The comments were full of heart emojis and supportive messages from friends who had no idea she'd been 70 feet underwater with another man. I pulled up the divorce documents, the settlement my attorney had drafted. Jessica had signed without much fight, agreeing to joint custody, accepting the division of assets. She'd seemed almost relieved, like she'd been waiting for it to end. No tears, no pleas for reconciliation, just signatures and silence. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Kyle Brennan. We need to talk." I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back, "Why would I want to talk to you?" The response came quickly. "Because you destroyed my career over something that never happened. And because Jessica's been calling me, asking me to tell you the truth." "What truth?" "Meet me at the Schooner Wharf tomorrow, 2 p.m., or spend the rest of your life wondering." He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a beer he hadn't touched. Without the dive shop uniform, he looked ordinary. Just another sunburned 30-something in board shorts and a faded t-shirt. But his eyes were hard when they met mine. "You cost me everything," he said without preamble. 7 years building a reputation, gone. Can't teach, can't guide, can't even work on a dive boat. You know how many jobs there are for a diver with no certifications? You should have thought about that before. Before what? He leaned forward. Before teaching your wife to dive? Before doing my job? Yeah, we did private lessons. Yeah, we dove together. That's what private instruction is. 17 times. Tandem fills. Deep dives. While she told me she was at yoga retreats. Kyle's laugh was bitter. You want to know what we did on those dives? We looked at fish. We practiced buoyancy control. We worked on her navigation skills. That's it. That's the big secret affair you've built in your head. Then why did she lie? He took a long pull from his beer. Because you would have reacted exactly like this. She told me about you. The questions, the suspicion, the need to know where she was every minute. She wanted something that was hers, something you couldn't control or analyze or turn into evidence. The words hit like a physical blow. That's not, isn't it? She learned to dive because she wanted to feel free, weightless, away from everything. And she knew if she told you, you'd find a way to ruin it. Turns out she was right. I felt my hands curling into fists. The hotel, Tyler Blackwood, the phone records. You're telling me all of that was innocent too? I don't know anything about Tyler Blackwood. I'm telling you about the diving, about the 17 times she came to me wanting to go deeper, stay down longer, push herself. And I taught her, that's all. While taking her money, while getting her alone underwater where nobody could see what Jesus Christ. Kyle stood abruptly. You really can't help yourself, can you? Everything has to be betrayal. Everyone has to be lying. Your wife wanted to learn something new and you've turned it into this investigation, this prosecution. He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward me. It was a video, time-stamped from February. Underwater footage, slightly murky, showing Jessica in full dive gear. She was practicing some kind of maneuver, hovering motionless in the water column, while Kyle's voice came through on the audio. Good. Hold that depth. Watch your breathing. Perfect. The video continued for 2 minutes. Just diving. Just instruction. Jessica's face was visible through her mask, concentrated, focused, but nothing else. No touching, no intimacy, just a student and a teacher. I record all my private lessons, Kyle said. Liability. And because it helps students see their progress. I've got 17 videos just like this one. Want to watch them all? Want to see the big seduction you've imagined? My voice came out hoarse. Send them to me. Why? So you can analyze every frame, looking for proof that isn't there? He pocketed his phone. Jessica asked me to show you these. She thought it might help you understand. But I can see now that nothing will. You've already decided what happened. The evidence doesn't matter. He started to walk away, then turned back. You know what the saddest part is? She really loved diving. She was good at it. Natural buoyancy, calm under pressure, quick learner. She could have gone for her advanced certification, maybe even dive master eventually. But she can't now, because every instructor in the Keys knows what you did to me. Nobody's going to touch her with a 10-foot pole. If she loved it so much, why did she give it up so easily? Why no fight when I confronted her? Kyle's expression softened into something like pity. Because she was tired. Tired of hiding something innocent. Tired of being married to someone who sees conspiracy in everything. She told me once that living with you was like being cross-examined every day. Guess she finally decided to stop testifying. I sat at the schooner wharf for an hour after he left, watching tourists stumble between bars and locals work on their boats. My phone had 17 new video files, each one labeled with a date that matched the tank logs. I hadn't opened any of them. The truth was, I didn't know if I wanted to, because if Kyle was lying, if those videos showed something else, then I'd been right all along. Vindicated, justified in everything I'd done. But if he was telling the truth, if those 17 dives were exactly what he claimed, then I'd destroyed a man's career, blown up my marriage, and traumatized my daughters over scuba lessons. Over my wife wanting something of her own. Over my inability to let her have secrets, even innocent ones. My phone buzzed again. Jessica this time. Kyle says he showed you the videos. I hope they help you understand. The girls ask about you every day. They miss their father. I miss who you used to be. I opened the first video. Watched Jessica descend into blue water, Kyle's voice calm and professional on the audio. Watched her practice hand signals, check her gauges, navigate around a reef. Nothing more. I opened the second video. The third. By the fifth, my hands were shaking. By the 10th, I was crying. The dive videos played on loop in my mind for weeks. I'd watch them frame by frame, Jessica's hair floating in the water, Kyle's professional hand signals, the careful distance between them. Nothing incriminating, nothing conclusive. But the tank logs told a different story. I sat in my car outside Captain Rick's shop 3 months after Kyle showed me those videos, watching tourists stream in and out. The Key West sun beat down on the windshield, turning the interior into an oven. I should have gone inside an hour ago. My phone buzzed. A text from my attorney. Deposition scheduled for next Tuesday. She's bringing the dive videos. Of course she was. Jessica had finally lawyered up, and her strategy was obvious. Paint me as the paranoid, controlling husband who destroyed an innocent man's career over scuba lessons. Make me the villain. I pocketed the phone and walked into the shop. Rick looked up from behind the counter, his weathered face registering surprise. Daniel, didn't expect to see you again. Got a minute? He glanced at the customers browsing equipment racks. Shop's busy, make it quick. I leaned against the counter, keeping my voice low. Those tank logs you showed me, the ones with Jessica's 17 dives. What about them? I need to know something. When you do tandem dives, instructor and student, do you fill both tanks from the same compressor, same time? Rick's eyes narrowed. Usually. Why? So the pressure readings would be identical? Same PSI, same fill date? Should be, yeah. We log everything for safety. He crossed his arms. Where are you going with this? I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I'd taken of the tank logs that day, zoomed in on the entries for Jessica's dives. Look at these dates: January 15th, February 12th, March 19th, April 9th. Rick leaned in, studying the screen. Those were the weekends Jessica told me she was at yoga retreats. 4 trips, 4 tandem dives. But look at the other 13 entries. I swiped to the next photo. Different dates, weekdays mostly, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Rick's expression shifted. Huh. Tuesdays and Thursdays. The same days she worked late in Miami. The same days I found those charges near the Grandview Hotel. My hands were steady now, my voice calm. She wasn't diving on those days, Rick. She couldn't have been. She was in Miami. So these entries are fake. Someone logged dives that never happened. Rick grabbed the phone, scrolling through the photos with increasing agitation. That's impossible. We don't log dives unless the tanks get filled. The compressor records are automated, tied to the payment system, unless someone manually entered them afterward. Backdated the logs to create a paper trail. His face went red. You're saying Kyle falsified my records? I'm saying someone did, and Kyle had motive. When Jessica's trips to Key West stopped, after I found out, he needed to explain why her name appeared in your log so many times. So he created fake dive entries to match up with days she was supposedly in Miami. Made it look like she'd been coming here for months, learning to dive, when really she was doing something else entirely. Rick's jaw clenched. That son of a... He yanked open a drawer behind the counter, pulled out a thick binder. His fingers flew through the pages, stopping on a section marked with sticky tabs. Compressor maintenance logs. Every fill gets recorded automatically. Date, time, PSI, tank number. I watched him cross-reference the entries, his finger moving down columns of data. January 15th, he muttered. Tanks 42 and 43. Yeah, those got filled. February 12th, same tanks. March 19th, he flipped pages. April 9th, yep. What about the Tuesday and Thursday entries? More page flipping. Rick's expression darkened. No compressor records, nothing. These tanks were never filled on these dates. But they're in your dive logs. Because Kyle entered them manually. Override code, supervisor access. Rick slammed the binder shut. That lying piece of... He used my shop to cover up whatever the hell was actually going on. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Jessica had come to Key West 4 times. The yoga retreats. 4 real dives. Probably innocent. Probably exactly what Kyle showed me in those videos. But then she'd stopped coming. Stopped the lessons. And Kyle, seeing an opportunity when I started asking questions, had fabricated 13 additional dives to create a pattern. To make it look like an ongoing student-instructor relationship instead of 4 isolated weekends. Why would he do that? Rick asked. If the dives were innocent, why fake the logs? Because he knew how it looked. 4 secret trips to Key West, using her maiden name, never telling her husband. Even if nothing happened, it was suspicious. So he tried to normalize it. Make it look like regular lessons over months instead of 4 hidden weekends. But that doesn't explain what she was actually doing here. I met Rick's eyes, or who she was meeting. The shop suddenly felt too small, too hot. Tourists laughed near the equipment racks, oblivious. Someone tried on fins. Rick rubbed his face. You know what this means? Kyle didn't just falsify records. He committed fraud, used my business, my certification, my liability insurance to cover up whatever this was. Can you prove it? The compressor logs are time-stamped, automated. Can't be altered without leaving digital footprints. Yeah, I can prove it. He pulled out his phone. And I'm calling my attorney right now. Kyle's not just losing his certification. He's getting sued for every penny he's got. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. There's something else, I said. The videos Kyle showed me, the ones proving the dives were innocent instruction. What about them? They're dated. January 15th, February 12th, March 19th, April 9th, the 4 real dives. He's got video evidence of those because they actually happened. But he doesn't have videos of the 13 fake dives because they never happened. Rick's expression shifted from anger to something colder. He played us both. Showed you real videos to prove innocence, then buried the truth in fake paperwork. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my attorney. Jessica's lawyer wants to meet. Says she has new evidence about the Key West trips. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. New evidence. Of course she did. I showed Rick the text. What do you think she's got? Probably receipts, photos, something to prove she was actually here those 4 weekends. Something to back up Kyle's story. He paused. But she can't prove the other 13 dives because they didn't happen. And if she's smart, her lawyer already knows that. So what's her play? Rick leaned back against the counter, thinking. She admits to the 4 trips, says she was learning to dive, wanted it to be a surprise for you, got scared to tell you when you started acting suspicious. Shows the videos as proof nothing inappropriate happened. Then she pivots. Says you're so controlling and paranoid that you destroyed an innocent man's career over scuba lessons. It was exactly what I'd feared. And the fake logs? She claims she didn't know about them. Kyle acted alone, trying to protect his business when you started threatening him. She's the victim twice. Once of your paranoia, once of Kyle's fraud. But that still doesn't explain Tyler Blackwood, the hotel, the phone calls. Rick shrugged. One thing at a time. Right now, you've got proof Kyle falsified records. That's leverage. Use it. I stared at the dive shop's walls, covered in photos of smiling tourists holding fish, giving thumbs up underwater. Happy memories. Innocent adventures. I need copies of those compressor logs, I said. Already on it. Rick was photographing pages from the binder with his phone. I'll email them to you tonight. And Daniel? He looked up. Whatever happened between your wife and Kyle, whatever she was really doing here, this proves he lied. Maybe not about everything, but about enough. I nodded, but the victory felt Pyrrhic. Proving Kyle falsified records didn't tell me what Jessica was hiding. It just confirmed she was hiding something. Outside, the Key West sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. Tourists walked past with shopping bags, laughing. A couple held hands, looking at a restaurant menu. My phone buzzed one more time. Not my attorney this time. An unknown number. A text message with a single photo attached. I opened it. The photo showed a restaurant patio at sunset. Key West, definitely. I recognized the waterfront. And at a table in the foreground, wine glasses catching the light, sat Jessica. Across from her sat a man. Not Kyle Brennan, not Tyler Blackwood. Someone I'd never seen before. The timestamp read January 15th, 6:47 p.m., the same day as her first dive lesson. I stared at that photo for 3 days straight, trying to identify the man across from my wife. Reverse image searches turned up nothing. The restaurant was the Turtle Kraals on Caroline Street. I'd called and confirmed they had outdoor seating with that exact view, but they didn't keep reservation records from 8 months ago. The anonymous sender never responded to my follow-up messages. By the time I walked into the conference room for Jessica's deposition, I'd made a decision. I slid the photo across the table without a word. Jessica went pale. Her attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Winters, picked it up, studied it, then looked at her client with barely concealed frustration. "Who is he?" I asked. Jessica's hands trembled. "His name is Andrew. Andrew Sullivan. And he's my half-brother." The room went silent. "You're what?" Jessica's voice cracked. "My mother had an affair 38 years ago. She got pregnant. The man, Andrew's father, was married, wealthy, lived in Key West. He paid her to keep quiet, to give the baby up for adoption. She took the money. She never told anyone." I sat back, my mind reeling. "You don't have a brother?" "I didn't know I had a brother, not until last November." She pulled out her phone, scrolled through emails, then slid it across to me. "He found me through one of those DNA ancestry sites. Sent me this." The email was dated November 3rd. A stranger introducing himself, explaining the connection, asking if she'd be willing to meet. Attached were DNA results showing a 25% genetic match. Half-siblings. "I didn't believe it at first," Jessica continued. "I thought it was a scam. But he sent me documents, my mother's signature on the adoption papers, the name of the attorney who handled it, everything. So I flew down to meet him, just to see if it was real." January 15th. "Yes, we met for dinner, talked for hours. He showed me photos of his life, his family, told me about growing up wondering who his birth mother was." She wiped her eyes. "He was angry at first. Angry she'd given him up. But he wanted to know her, to understand why." Patricia Winters interjected, "My client has documentation of all this. Birth certificates, DNA results, correspondence with the adoption agency. We can provide everything." I looked at Jessica. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know how. My mother made me promise not to say anything. She's terrified my father will find out, that it'll destroy their marriage." Jessica's voice hardened. "And because I knew you'd react exactly like this, you'd investigate, interrogate, turn it into evidence of something sinful. You can't just let people have private pain, Daniel. Everything has to be your business." The words stung because they were true. "The diving lessons," I said. "Were those real?" "Andrew's a dive instructor. That's what he does for a living. He offered to teach me while I was visiting. I said yes because..." She paused. "Because it felt good to do something with a brother I'd just discovered. Something normal. Something that was ours." "And Kyle Brennan?" Jessica and Patricia exchanged glances. "Andrew works at a different shop, Island Divers on Stock Island. But when you started investigating, when Captain Rick got involved, Kyle saw an opportunity. He offered to take credit for the lessons, to create a paper trail that would protect Andrew's identity. He thought he was helping. By committing fraud. By trying to give me privacy, which you've made very clear I'm not entitled to." Patricia cleared her throat. "Mr. Reeves, we're prepared to provide DNA evidence, witness testimony from Andrew Sullivan, and documentation of every trip my client made to Key West. We can prove conclusively that she was visiting her half-brother, not having an affair. In exchange, We're asking you to drop the infidelity claims and agree to a no-fault divorce. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt sick. And Tyler Blackwood? Was exactly what he told you. A client consulting on a marketing project. The calls were work-related. The hotel meeting was in a conference room. Everything he said was true, but you were too busy building your case to believe him. The evidence landed on the table one piece at a time. DNA results from 2 separate labs. Emails between Jessica and Andrew spanning 8 months. Photos of them together, at restaurants, on boats, at his house with his wife and kids. Innocent. Familial. Adoption records showing a baby boy born to Catherine Whitmore on March 14, 1986. Father listed as unknown. Child placed with a family in Key West. It was all real. I'd destroyed a man's career, traumatized my daughters, and blown up my marriage over scuba lessons with a half-brother I didn't know existed. I want to talk to Andrew, I said. No. Jessica's voice was firm. You've done enough damage. Andrew lost business because of the rumors you spread about Kyle. He doesn't want anything to do with you. But I need to. You need to sign the papers and let this end. She stood up. I loved you, Daniel. For years I loved you. But living with you was like being on trial every day. Every late meeting was suspicious. Every phone call was evidence. Every moment I wasn't performing perfect transparency was proof of guilt. I was trying to protect our marriage. You were trying to control me, and when you couldn't, you decided I must be guilty of something. She gathered her things. The girls will spend weekdays with me, weekends with you. We'll split holidays. You'll pay child support based on the calculator, and we'll both move on. Jessica, I'm done testifying, Daniel. Sign the papers. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in October, exactly 11 months after that first anonymous email. I signed the papers in my attorney's office while Jessica signed in hers. We didn't speak. The girls adjusted better than I expected. Emma, my oldest, asked why Mommy and Daddy didn't love each other anymore. I told her we'd always love each other, but sometimes grown-ups needed to live separately. She seemed to accept that. Kyle Brennan sued Captain Rick's shop for wrongful termination and won a settlement. He moved to California and got recertified under a different organization. Last I heard, he was teaching again. Rick sold the dive shop and retired. The new owners renamed it and scrubbed all the old records. Tyler Blackwood got promoted to senior vice president. I saw the announcement on LinkedIn. And Jessica, I don't know what happened to Jessica. We communicate only through a co-parenting app now, brief messages about pickup times and doctor appointments. She never mentions Andrew. I never ask. I think about that anonymous email sometimes, the one that started everything. Someone sent me that photo wanting me to know the truth, but the truth wasn't what either of us thought it was. It was just a woman having dinner with her brother, captured by a stranger who saw something suspicious in an innocent moment. Just like I did. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, says I have trust issues rooted in control. That I mistake surveillance for love, interrogation for intimacy. She's probably right. The girls are with Jessica this week. The condo is quiet. I've got case files spread across the dining table, depositions to prepare, motions to file. The work never stops. My phone buzzes. A text from Emma. Daddy, I miss you. Can we get ice cream this weekend? I text back immediately. Absolutely. I love you. She sends a heart emoji. It's not enough. It'll never be enough to make up for what I broke. But it's what I have. I've learned something in these months of silence and separation. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just shows you who you really are. And sometimes that person is someone you don't want to be. Someone who sees betrayal in every shadow, who mistakes privacy for deception, who would rather burn everything down than admit he might be wrong. Jessica was right. I couldn't let her have private pain. I couldn't let her have secrets, even innocent ones. I needed to know everything, control everything, verify everything. And in doing so, I verified only one thing, that I was capable of destroying what I loved most. The girls will grow up in 2 houses now instead of 1. They'll pack bags every Friday, switching between parents who couldn't figure out how to trust each other. They'll learn that love isn't always enough, that sometimes the people who promise to protect you are the ones you need protection from. That's the real cost. Not the legal fees or the divided assets or the sold house. The cost is measured in a 6-year-old asking why daddy doesn't live here anymore, in an 8-year-old who started having nightmares, in the family photos I can't look at without feeling sick. I wanted to catch my wife in a lie. Instead, I caught myself in the truth, that I valued certainty more than trust, evidence more than faith, control more than love. And now I have exactly what I wanted. Absolute certainty about where everyone is, what they're doing, who they're with. I just had to destroy my family to get it. The ice cream parlor where I'll take Emma this weekend is the same one we used to go to as a family. She'll order mint chocolate chip like she always does. She'll tell me about school and her friends and the book she's reading. And for an hour, maybe 2, I'll get to pretend I'm still the father she thinks I am. Then I'll drive her back to Jessica's house, the one I don't have keys to anymore, and watch her run inside without looking back. That's the lesson, I suppose. The moral that took 11 months and a destroyed marriage to learn. Trust isn't about having all the answers. It's about being okay with not knowing. It's about giving the people you love the space to be imperfect, to have secrets, to make mistakes without having those mistakes weaponized against them. I never learned that lesson when it mattered, but I'm learning it now, alone in my condo, preparing for a weekend with daughters who are learning it too. Learning that their father chose suspicion over faith, investigation over intimacy, the need to be right over the chance to be happy. Some truths come too late to save you. This is mine.